So chapter 3 of the Epic of Gilgamesh, Ishtar and Gilgamesh and the death of Enkidu. Chapter 3, here we go. Gilgamesh washed out his long locks and cleaned his weapons. He flung back his hair from his shoulders, he threw off his stained clothes and changed them for new. He put on his royal robes and made them fast. When Gilgamesh had put on the crown, glorious Ishtar lifted her eyes. Seeing the beauty of Gilgamesh, she said, "Come to me, Gilgamesh, and be my bridegroom. Grant me seed of your body, let me be your bride, and you shall be my husband. I will harness for you a chariot of lapis, lazuli, and of gold, with wheels of gold and horns of copper, and you shall have mighty demons of the storm for draft mules. When you enter our house, in the fragrance of cedarwood, threshold and throne will kiss your feet. Kings, rulers, and princes will bow down before you. They shall bring you tribute from the mountains and the plain. Your ewes shall drop twins, and your goats triplets. Your pack-ass shall outrun mules. Your oxen shall have no rivals, and your chariot horses shall be famous, far off for their swiftness." Gilgamesh opened his mouth and answered glorious Ishtar, "If I take you in marriage, what gifts can I give in return? What ointments and clothing for your body? I would gladly give you bread and all sorts of food fit for a god. I would give you wine to drink fit for a queen. I would pour out barley to stuff your granary. But as for making you my wife, that I will not. How would it go with me? Your lovers have found you like a brazier which smolders in the cold, a back door which keeps out neither squall of wind nor storm, a castle which crushes the garrison, pitch that blackens the bearer, a water skin that chafes the carrier, a stone which falls from the parapet, a battering ram turned back from the enemy, a sandal that trips the water, a sandal that trips the wearer. Which of your lovers did you ever love forever? What shepherd of yours has pleased you for all time? Listen to me while I tell the tale of your lovers. There was Tammuz, the lover of your youth. For him you decreed wailing, year after year. You loved the many-colored roller, but still you struck and broke his wing. Now in the grove he sits and cries, "Cappy, Cappy, my wing, my wing." You have loved the lion tremendous in strength. 7 pits you dug for him in 7. You have loved the stallion magnificent in battle, and for him you decreed whip and spur and a throng, to gallop 7 leagues by force and to muddy the water before he drinks, and for his mother Salili lamentations. You have loved the shepherd of the flock. He made meal cake for you day after day. He killed kids for your sake. You struck and turned him into a wolf. Now his own herd boys chase him away. His own hounds worry his flanks. And did you not love Ishulanu, the gardener of your father's palm grove? He brought you baskets filled with dates without end. Every day he loaded your table, then you turned your eyes on him and said, "Dearest Ishulanu, come here to me, let us enjoy your manhood. Come forward and take me, I am yours." Ishulanu answered, "What are you asking from me? My mother has baked and I have eaten. Why should I come to you such as you? Why should I come to such as you for food that is tainted and rotten? For when she was a screen of rushes sufficient protection from frost. But when you had heard his answer, you struck him. He was changed to a blind mole deep in the earth, one whose desire is always beyond his reach. And if you and I should be lovers, should not I be served in the same fashion as all these others whom you loved once?" When Ishtar heard this, she fell into a bitter rage. She went up to high heaven. Her tears poured down in front of her father Anu and Antum, her mother. She said, "My father Gilgamesh has heaped insults on me. He has told over all my abominable behavior, my foul and hideous acts." Anu opened his mouth and said, "Are you a father of gods? Did not you quarrel with Gilgamesh the king, so now he has related your abominable behavior, your foul and hideous acts?" So when Ishtar heard this, she fell into a bitter rage. She went up to high heaven. Her tears poured down in front of her father Anu and Antum, her mother. She said, "My father Gilgamesh has heaped insults on me. He has told over all my abominable behavior, my foul and hideous acts." Anu opened his mouth and said, "Are you a father of gods? Did not you quarrel with Gilgamesh the king, so now he has related your abominable behavior, your foul and hideous acts?" I think he's saying, like, why are you worried about what he's saying, maybe? Ishtar opened her mouth and said again, "My father, give me the bull of heaven to destroy Gilgamesh. Fill Gilgamesh, I say, with arrogance to his destruction. But if you refuse to give me the bull of heaven, I will break in the doors of hell and smash the bolts. There will be confusion of people, those above with those from the lower depths. I shall bring up the dead to eat food like the living, and the host of dead will outnumber the living." Anu said to great Ishtar, If I do what you desire, there will be 7 years of drought throughout Uruk, when corn will be seedless husks. Have you saved grain enough for the people and grass for the cattle? Ishtar replied, I have saved grain for the people, grass for the cattle. For 7 years of seedless husk there was grain, and there was grass enough. When Anu heard what Ishtar had said, he gave her the bull of heaven to lead by the halter down to Uruk. When they reached the gates of Uruk, the bull went to the river. With his first snort, cracks opened in the earth, and 100 young men fell down to death. With his second snort, cracks opened, and 200 fell down to death. With his third snort, cracks opened, and Enkidu doubled over but instantly recovered. He dodged aside and leaped on the bull and seized it by the horns. The bull of heaven foamed in his face and brushed him with the thick of its tail. Enkidu cried to Gilgamesh, My friend, we boasted that we would leave enduring names behind us. Now thrust in your sword between the nape and the horns. So Gilgamesh followed the bull. He seized the thick of its tail. He thrust the sword between the nape and the horns and slew the bull. When they had killed the bull of heaven, they cut out its heart and gave it to Shamash, and the brothers rested. But Ishtar rose up and mounted the great wall of Uruk. She sprang on to the tower and uttered a curse. Woe to Gilgamesh, for he has scorned me in killing the bull of heaven. When Enkidu heard these words, he tore out the bull's right thigh and tossed it in her face, saying, If I could lay my hands on you, it is this I should do to you, and lash the entrails to your side. Then Ishtar called together her people, the dancing and singing girls, the prostitutes of the temple, the courtesans. Over the thigh of the bull of heaven she set up lamentation. But Gilgamesh called the smiths and the armorers, all of them together. They admired the immensity of the horns. They were plated with lapis lazuli 2 fingers thick. They were 30 pounds each in weight, and their capacity in oil was 6 measures, which he gave to his guardian god, Lugal Banda. But he carried the horns into the palace and hung them on the wall. Then they washed their hands in Euphrates. They embraced each other and went away. They drove through the streets of Uruk, where the heroes were gathered to see them. And Gilgamesh called to the singing girls, Who is most glorious of the heroes? Who is most eminent among men? Gilgamesh is the most glorious of heroes. Gilgamesh is the most eminent among men. And now there was feasting and celebrations and joy in the palace, till the heroes lay down, saying, Now we will rest for the night. When the daylight came, Enkidu got up and cried to Gilgamesh, O my brother, such a dream I had last night. Anu, Enlil, Ea, and heavenly Shamash took counsel together, and Anu said to Enlil, Because they have killed the bull of heaven, and because they have killed Humbaba, who guarded the cedar mountain, one of the two must die. Then glorious Shamash answered the hero Enlil, It was by your command they killed the bull of heaven and killed Humbaba. And must Enkidu die, although innocent? Enlil flung round in rage at glorious Shamash. You dare to say this, you who went about with them every day like one of themselves? So Enkidu had the dream. So Enkidu lay stretched out before Gilgamesh. His tears ran down in streams, and he said to Gilgamesh, O my brother, so dear as you are to me, brother, yet they will take me from you. Again he said, I must sit down on the threshold of the dead, and never again will I see my dear brother with my eyes. While Enkidu lay alone in his sickness, he cursed the gate as though it was living flesh. You there, wood of the gate, dull and insensible, witless, I searched for you over 20 leagues until I saw the towering cedar. There was no wood like you in our land, 72 cubits high and 24 wide. The pivot and the ferrule and the jambs are perfect. A master craftsman from Nippur has made you, but oh, if I had known the conclusion, if I had known that this was all the good that would come of it, I would have raised the axe and split you into little pieces and set up here a gate of wattle instead. Ah, if only some future king had brought you here, or some god had fashioned you, let him obliterate my name and write his own, and the curse fall on him instead of on Enkidu. With the first brightening of dawn, Enkidu raised his head and wept before the sun god. In the brilliance of the sunlight his tears streamed down. Sun god, I beseech you, about that vile trapper, that trapper of nothing, because of whom I was to catch less than my comrade. Let him catch least. Make his game scarce, make them feeble, taking the smaller of every share. Let his quarry escape from his nets. When he had cursed the trapper to his heart's content, he turned on the harlot. He was roused to curse her also. As for you, woman, with the great curse I curse you. I will promise you a destiny to all eternity. My curse shall come on you soon and sudden. You shall be without a roof for your commerce. For you shall not keep house with other girls in the tavern, but do your business in places fouled by the vomit of the drunkard. Your hire will be potter's earth, your thievings will be flung into the hovel. You will sit at the crossroads in the dust of the potter's quarter. You will make your bed on the dunghill at night, and by day take your stand in the wall's shadow. Brambles and thorns will tear your feet, the drunk and the dry will strike your cheek, and your mouth will ache. Let you be Let you be stripped of your purple dyes, for I too once in the wilderness with my wife had all the treasure I wished. So he's getting, because the trappers, the trapper was upset at the way, in the beginning, chapter 1, the trapper was upset at Gilgamesh was doing things. So he called unto the gods, create somebody, and then that's when they created Enkidu. And then the trapper was told, no, actually the trapper went to his father, and his father said, well, go to Gilgamesh. And Gilgamesh said, well, send him a harlot. Or was it the father? Somebody suggested to the trapper to send him a woman. Remember, Enkidu was just, he used to eat off the land. He was part of the mountains. He would eat grass. He would drink the same water as the animals. But once he lied with the women, he became like a god. He became wise. Very, very, very biblical in similarity. And so he's cursing the trapper and the harlot. Let you be stripped of your purple dyes, for I too once in the wilderness with my wife had all the treasure I wished. So he's pretty much saying, fuck, dude, I was better off in the... When Shamash heard the words of Enkidu, he called to him from heaven, Enkidu, why are you cursing the woman, the mistress who taught you to eat bread fit for gods and drink wine of kings? She who put upon you a magnificent garment, did she not give you glorious Gilgamesh for your companion? And has not Gilgamesh, your own brother, made you rest on a royal bed and recline on a couch at his left hand? He has made the princes of the earth kiss your feet, and all the people of Uruk lament and wail over you. When you are dead, he will let his hair grow long for your sake. He will wear a lion's pelt and wander through the desert. When Enkidu heard glorious Shamash, his angry heart grew quiet. He called back the curse and said, Woman, I promise you another destiny. The mouth which cursed you shall bless you. Kings, princes, and nobles shall adore you. On your account a man, though 12 miles off, will clap his hand to his thigh, and his hair will twitch. For you he will undo his belt and open his treasure, and you shall have your desire. Lapis lazuli, gold and carnelian from the heap in the treasury. A ring for your hand and a robe shall be yours. The priest will lead you into the presence of the gods. On your account a wife, a mother of 7, was forsaken. As Enkidu slept alone in his sickness and bitterness of his As Enkidu slept alone in his sickness and bitterness of spirit, he poured out his heart to his friend. It was I who cut down the cedar, I who leveled the forest, I who slew Humbaba, and now see what has become of me. Listen, my friend, this is a dream I dreamed last night. The heavens roared and earth rumbled back in answer. Between them stood I before an awful being, the somber-faced man-bird. He had directed on me his purpose. He was a vampire face, his foot was a lion's foot, his hand was an eagle's talon. He fell on me and his claws were in my hair. He held me fast and I smothered. Then he transformed me so that my arms became wings covered with feathers. He turned his stare towards me and he led me away to the palace of Urkala, the queen of darkness, to the house from which none who enters ever returns, down the road from which there was no coming back. There is a house whose people sit in darkness. Dust is their food and clay their meat. They are clothed like birds with wings for covering. They see no light, they sit in darkness. I entered the house of dust, and I saw the kings of the earth, their crowns put away forever. Rulers and princes, all those who once wore kingly crowns and ruled the world in the days of old. They who had stood in the place of the gods like Anu and Enlil, stood now like servants to fetch baked meats in the house of dust, to carry cooked meat and cold water from the water skin. In the house of dust which I entered were high priests and acolytes, priests of incantation and of ecstasy. There were servers of the temple, and there was Etana, that king of Kish, whom the eagle carried to heaven in the days of old. I saw also Samukan, god of cattle, and there was Ereshkigal, the queen of the underworld, and Balit Sheri squatted in front of her, she who is recorder of the gods and keeps the book of death. She held a tablet from which she read. She raised her head, she saw me and spoke. Who has brought this one here? Then I awoke like a man drained of blood who wanders alone in a waste of rushes, like one whom the bailiff has seized and his heart pounds with terror. Gilgamesh had peeled off his clothes. He listened to his words and wept quick tears. Gilgamesh listened and his tears flowed. He opened his mouth and spoke to Enkidu. Who was there in strong-walled Uruk who has wisdom like this? Strange things have been spoken. Why does your heart speak strangely? The dream was marvelous, but the terror was great. We must treasure the dream, whatever the terror, for the dream has shown that misery comes at last to the healthy man. The end of life is sorrow. And Gilgamesh lamented, Now I will pray to the great gods, for my friend had an ominous dream. This day on which Enkidu dreamed came to an end, and Be lay stricken with sickness. One whole day he lay on his bed, and his suffering increased. He said to Gilgamesh, the friend on whose account he had left the wilderness, "Once I ran for the water of life, and now I have nothing." A second day he lay on his bed, and Gilgamesh watched over him, but the sickness increased. A third day he lay on his bed. He called out to Gilgamesh, rousing him up. Now he was weak, and his eyes were blind with weeping. 10 days he lay, and his suffering increased. 11 and 12 days he lay on his bed of pain. Then he called to Gilgamesh, "My friend, the great goddess cursed me, and I must die in shame. I shall not die like a man fallen in battle. I feared to fall, but happy is the man who falls in the battle, for I must die in shame." And Gilgamesh wept over Enkidu. With the first light of dawn he raised his voice and said to the counselors of Uruk, "Hear me, great ones of Uruk. I weep for Enkidu, my friend. Bitterly moaning like a woman mourning, I weep for my brother. O Enkidu, my brother, you were the axe at my side, my hand's strength, the sword in my belt, the shield before me, a glorious robe, my fairest ornament. An evil fate has robbed me. The wild ass and the gazelle that were father and mother, all long-tailed creatures that nourished you weep for you. All the wild things of the plain and pastures, the paths that you loved in the forests of cedars, night and day murmur. Let the great ones of strong-walled Uruk weep for you. Let the finger of blessing be stretched out in mourning. Enkidu, young brother, hark, there was an echo through all the country like a mother mourning. Weep all the paths where we walked together, and the beasts we hunted, the bear and hyena, tiger and panther, leopard and lion, the stag and the ibex, the bull and the doe, the river along whose banks we used to walk. Weeps for you. Ula of Elam and dear Euphrates, where once we drew water for the water-skins. The mountain we climbed where we slew the watchmen weeps for you. The warriors of strong-willed Uruk, where the bull of heaven was killed, weep for you. All the people of Eridu weep for you, Enkidu. Those who brought grain for your eating mourn for you now. Who rubbed oil on your back mourn for you now. Who poured beer for your drinking mourn for you now. The harlot who anointed you with fragrant ointment laments for you now. Laments for you now. The women of the palace who brought you a wife, a chosen ring of good advice, lament for you now. And the young men, your brothers, as though they were women, go long-haired in mourning. What is this sleep which holds you now? You are lost in the dark, you cannot hear me. So this turns into like a little poem that Gilgamesh wrote or says out loud for Enkidu. He touched his heart, but it did not beat, nor did he lift his eyes again. When Gilgamesh touched his heart, it did not beat. So Gilgamesh laid a veil, as one veils the bride over his friend. He began to rage like a lioness robbed of her whelps. This way and that he paced round the bed. He tore out his hair and strewed it around. He dragged off his splendid robes and flung them down as though they were abominations. In the first light of dawn, Gilgamesh cried out, "I made you rest on a royal bed. You reclined on a couch at my left hand. The princes of the earth kissed your feet. I will cause all the people of Uruk to weep over you and raise the dirge of the dead. The joyful people will stoop with sorrow, and when you have gone to the earth, I will let my hair grow long for your sake. I will wander through the wilderness in the skin of a lion." The next day also, in the first light, Gilgamesh lamented. 7 days and 7 nights he wept for Enkidu, until the worm fastened on him. Only then he gave him up to the earth, for the Anunnaki, the judges, had seized him. Only then he gave him up to the earth, until the worm fastened on him. Only then he gave him up to the earth, for the Anunnaki, the judges, had seized him. Then Gilgamesh issued a proclamation through the land. He summoned them all, the coppersmiths, the goldsmiths, the stoneworkers, and commanded them, "Make a statue of my friend." The statue was fashioned with a great weight of lapis lazuli for the breast and of gold for the body. A table of hard wood was set out, and on it a bowl of carnelian filled with honey, and a bowl of lapis lazuli. It's 2 words, L-A-P-I-S space L-A-Z-U-L-I. And a bowl of lapis lazuli filled with butter. These he exposed and offered to the sun, and weeping he went away. Lapis lazuli. There we are. Peace.